Welcome to Inspire the Next Mind by Fazuz Daye.
Today, we're going to dig into the difference between a manager who just directs and a leader who truly transforms. And you know what? Let's kick things off with a question that gets right to the heart of this whole thing.
So seriously, take a second and think about your own career. Have you worked for a boss or have you worked for a leader? Because trust me, there is a world of difference between the two. And today we're going to unpack exactly what that difference is, and even better, how you can become one of those true leaders. Okay, so when you boil it all down, leadership kind of splits into two big categories. You've got one approach that's all about managing what's happening right now, and then you have another that's focused on building what's coming next. So let's look at this side by side. First, you have the transactional manager. Their whole world revolves around tasks. They operate on a pretty simple system of rewards and consequences. And yeah, they get efficient followers out of it. But then you've got the transformational leader. They're different. They focus on people, on purpose. They're all about inspiring and mentoring. And the result? Whoa, it's so much more powerful. They don't just create followers, they create more leaders. You know, the transactional approach is, well, it's simple, right? It's basically an exchange. You do this work, you get this reward. It's predictable, everyone knows where they stand, and look, it gets the job done. But, and this is a big but, it almost never taps into that deeper well of passion or creativity that people have. And then you have this. This is the complete opposite. It's not a transaction at all. It's an invitation. The leader paints this picture of the future that's so compelling, so exciting, that the team just wants to be part of making it real. The belief here isn't just in the vision, it's in the people who are going to build it. Okay, so you're probably thinking, that sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, here's the cool part. It's not some kind of magic. There's actually a super practical framework for this, developed by a guy named Bernard Bass, and it's basically a toolkit for becoming this kind of leader. It's all built on 4 core components. Think of them as 4 pillars. They're distinct, yeah, but they're all connected. And when you put them together, wow, the impact they can have on a team is just incredible. And here they are. They're called the 4 I's, and this is your roadmap. So let's dive in and break down what each of these really means. All right, first up is idealized influence. This one's all about walking the talk. It means you're the kind of person people want to follow, because you're consistent, you're ethical, and when things go wrong, you take accountability. You're basically leading by example. Next, we've got inspirational motivation. And this is that visionary's voice we were talking about earlier. It's all about having the ability to connect the stuff your team does every single day to a much bigger, much more meaningful mission. It's giving them the why behind the what. Okay, number 3 is intellectual stimulation. This is a huge one. It's about creating a space where people feel safe to challenge the way things have always been done, to try new things. The leader here isn't the person with all the answers. No way. They're the person who asks the best questions and sees every single mistake as a learning opportunity, as valuable data. And last but not least, individualized consideration. This is where the leader really becomes a coach. They see every single person on their team as a unique individual with their own goals and their own ambitions, and they actively help them grow. It's a huge shift, right? It's about developing people, not just managing resources. All right, so theory is great and all, but let's see what this actually looks like in the real world. Nothing makes an idea stick like a good story. So I want you to picture this scene. There's this team of software developers, and their one and only job is fixing bugs, day in, day out. As you can imagine, their morale is just in the gutter. They feel like janitors, not creators. They're just cleaning up other people's messes instead of building anything cool and new. Their whole identity is wrapped up in failure. Then a new leader, let's call her Maria, she comes in. And on her very first day, she doesn't say a word about ticket numbers or backlogs. Instead, she completely reframes their entire purpose. This is textbook inspirational motivation. She gives them a brand new identity and this heroic mission to make the system so stable, so perfect, that their old job of fixing bugs becomes totally obsolete. And just watch how she puts that entire 4 I's framework into action. She didn't want them just patching bugs. She encouraged them to dig deep and find the root cause. That's your intellectual stimulation right there. She noticed a junior dev with a passion project, and she mentored them. Boom, individualized consideration. And when a massive failure inevitably happened, She stood up and took full responsibility. That is idealized influence. She didn't just talk about the values, she lived them.
So, here's the million-dollar question. Did any of this actually work? Oh yeah, absolutely. In just 6 months, the number of new bugs dropped by a whopping 40%. But honestly, that's not even the most important part. The team itself had completely transformed. They weren't the bug fix team anymore. They were innovators, and they were spending all their new free time actually building the future.
Maria's story is it's a perfect example of how this isn't just some fluffy theory, right? It's a practical, hands-on approach that gets real, measurable results. And that brings us to what I think is the single most important takeaway from all of this.
This right here, this is the fundamental difference. One style of leadership is all about control. It's about compliance. The other, it's about empowerment. It's about growth. One manages tasks, the other develops human beings.
So when you think about it, the real question isn't just about how you lead. It's about who you empower along the way. Because leadership, it isn't a title on an org chart. It's an action you take every single day. So the real question we want to leave you with is this: how will you inspire the next mind?